The mug didn't fall, it flew. It smashed against the kitchen tile like a thunderclap. And just like that, 40 years of marriage cracked wide open. "If you take that damn painting class," Richard snarled, "we're getting a divorce." My husband, 63 years old, was throwing tantrums again. Red-faced, fist-clenched veins popping because I wanted to paint. Thomas stood nearby holding Ethan like a shield. Vanessa, arms folded, wore her usual smug smile, as if waiting for me to retreat. But this time I didn't. "All right," I said, my voice calm. "Let's get a divorce." Silence. Even little Ethan stopped fussing. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. That wasn't in his script. I was supposed to back down, apologize, put the family first again. Thomas spoke next. "Mom, seriously, over a class." I looked at him, really looked, and saw not my son, but an echo of his father. "It's $15 a session. Less than Dad spends on coffee each week. Less than the toy truck you bought Ethan last month." I turned to Richard, and a fraction of the $200 cycling workshops you attend, without blinking. He slammed his hand down. "Those are investments in my health. This is just you being selfish. The class runs from 9 to noon. Ethan's at preschool until 1. There is no conflict." Vanessa stepped in, oozing fake concern. "But what if there's an emergency? You'll be painting?" She said it like I was snorting glue. I took a deep breath, opened my purse, and placed the registration form on the counter. "I've already signed up. Classes start Monday." Thomas lost it. "You didn't even ask us." That money could have gone to Ethan's college fund. "I'm 63, I replied. "For over 40 years, I put everyone else first. I earned 3 hours a week." Richard's voice dropped an octave. "You walk out that door. Monday don't come back." There it was. I stared at the man who once watched me paint with wonder, now reduced to ultimatums. "Then I'll pack my things. I'm sure Joan has room." As I turned, Vanessa whispered, "She's bluffing." But I wasn't, because I'd finally realized something. The worst thing about cages isn't the bars. It's forgetting you deserve the key. And I'd just found mine. Joan didn't ask questions when I showed up at her door with a single suitcase. She just took it from my hand, stepped aside, and said, "The bed's-made-up closet's empty. Sit down when you're ready." Only after I'd unpacked did she pour 2 glasses of red wine and slide one toward me. "All right," she said, "tell me everything." And so I did. I told her about the painting class, Richard's threat, Thomas's outrage, Vanessa's condescension, and the 40 years I'd spent being invisible. Joan, 68, 5 years older and eons wiser, just listened. Not once did she interrupt. Only the tightness of her jaw betrayed her anger. When I finished, she refilled my glass and leaned forward. "Eleanor, be honest, were you happy?" I looked at my hands, once smooth, now cracked and swollen from decades of unpaid labor. "No," I whispered. "I haven't been happy in a very long time." Joan didn't need to hear more. She nodded like she'd known it all along. "You need a lawyer," she said. "I'll connect you with mine, Laura Burke. She doesn't sugarcoat a damn thing, and she's brilliant." The next morning, I called. Laura was exactly what I needed, sharp, direct, no nonsense. "We'll file a petition first," she explained. "Given the length of the marriage and your unpaid labor, you're entitled to a significant share of assets, but be warned, it won't be quick or painless." I've waited 40 years. I told her I'm done waiting. I didn't have my checkbook that day. I'd left everything behind in my rush to escape. Joan didn't hesitate. She handed over the money for the class and said, "Pay me back when you're ready, but don't miss that first brush stroke." And that Monday, I walked into my first painting class. The building smelled of old books, turpentine, and possibility. Our teacher, Olivia Chen, wore electric blue hair and a paint-stained hoodie. She clapped her hands once. "Welcome. Art isn't about getting it right. It's about finding your voice." I sat by the window, laid out borrowed brushes, faced the blank canvas, and panicked. What if I was too old? What if they were right? Olivia walked by, saw the paralysis in my hand, and whispered, "Don't overthink, just make your first mark." So I did, One stroke, then another. Crimson indigo orange. Not perfect, not even close. But it pulsed with something I hadn't felt in years' life. Olivia paused behind me, studying the canvas. "There's something alive in your work," she said. For the first time in decades, I felt the same about myself. 2 weeks into my new life, I arrived at class feeling lighter. That day, I wore lipstick for the first time in years. But something was off the moment I stepped through the door. The receptionist, barely 20, looked up and flinched. "Mrs. Wells, I'm so sorry your enrollment's been canceled." I froze. What? "Your tuition was refunded. Someone came in, said you weren't mentally well, that you signed up impulsively and would drop out. They even threatened legal action. We thought they were speaking for you." I turned toward the glass entrance, and there they were. Richard Thomas, waiting like vultures to watch me unravel. Thomas smiled like he'd done me a favor. "Mom, let's go. You've had your fun." Richard chimed in smug. If Thomas hadn't stepped in, who knows how long you'd waste playing with finger paints. My pulse roared in my ears. I took a step back, breath-catching. "You canceled my class without asking me." Thomas shrugged. "Vanessa wanted a necklace. I used the refund money." I stared. That wasn't even my money. Joan paid for it. His smile faltered. "It's just family money, Mom? What's the big deal?" "When it's for your son, it's family money. When it's for your mother, it's a waste." I pulled out my phone. "That refund was unauthorized. You used someone else's funds without permission. That's theft." The color drained from Thomas's face. At the police station, he stammered, "It's not theft. She's my mom." The officer sighed. "If it wasn't her money, it's not just a family matter anymore." "It was Joan's," I said. "She paid as a gift. I owe her." 15 minutes later, Joan arrived, fire in her eyes, boots stomping like war drums. She stood nose to nose with Thomas. "You took my money, return it, or I'll press charges." He tried to joke. She didn't laugh. Eventually, he shuffled to an ATM and handed me the bills. One by one, I took them slowly. "No need to be petty," I said, mimicking his earlier tone. "We're family, right?" For once, he had no comeback. As we turned to leave, Richard spoke up. "You got your money? Now come home." "No," I replied. "I'm getting a divorce. Sign the papers." His face contorted. "You keep saying that you're too old for this. This is insane." "You were the first to threaten divorce." I said, "I'm just giving you what you asked for." Joan slipped her arm through mine. "Funny, isn't it?" she said to Richard. "You had a wife and didn't know how to treat her. Now she's gone, and you act like the victim." That afternoon, I re-enrolled in class. Same classroom, same teacher. But this time, my brush moved with fury and freedom. Olivia stood behind me, quietly watching. "I think you're ready," she said. "There's a competition. The Phoenix Art Show. The theme is transformation." I laughed. "I've only been painting for weeks." "Exactly," she said. "And look how far you've come." For 2 weeks, I poured myself into that canvas, a woman tangled in vines, straining toward light. One arm still caught, but the other breaking free. Joan stared at it for a long time when I finished. Then she whispered, "I see you, I really do." But the world wasn't done trying to drag me back. Richard and Thomas weren't done either. "Come home, Mom Ethan asks for you. You're selfish, you abandoned us." I stopped answering. Instead, I painted and waited. But I never expected what they did next. I woke to a buzzstorm. Phone lighting up, notifications pouring in. Joan burst into my room, her face tight. "You need to see this." She handed me her tablet. On screen, a video already viral. Title: "My 63-year-old mother abandoned her family to chase a painting dream. What should we do?" And there he was, Thomas, looking tired, broken fake. "My mom left without warning," he said, voice cracking. "She gave up on us. On her grandson, we were scared. She'd been manipulated. Now my dad's health is falling apart." The camera panned to Richard, wrapped in a blanket by the window, staring into space like a war widow. "Since she left, there's no one to care for our son. My wife and I are drowning." It was theater well lit, well timed, and utterly false. The comments came fast. How could a mother do this? Another selfish boomer. She abandoned her family for finger painting. By noon, strangers had found my full name, my address, even my class schedule. Hate mail threats. One message read, "You should be ashamed grandmothers don't chase hobbies they help." Even Olivia's class took a hit. Trolls flooded reviews, students dropped out. And then Thomas called me. Smug. "Mom, internet's on my side. Just come home, call off the divorce. I'll post a retraction. Fix everything." In the background, Richard laughed. "See, world agrees with us. Time to quit the nonsense." My fingers clenched the phone. Something inside me snapped. "Thomas," I said coldly, "they only heard your story, and none of it was true." He chuckled. "What are you gonna do? You're terrible with tech. Good luck fighting back." And that's when I realized they had no idea who I'd become. Since moving in with Joan, I'd learned everything from scratch. Olivia had taught me how to shoot video, add captions, edit reels, tell stories visually. So I told mine. I started a channel, The Painting Path. I filmed my hands mixing color. My brush touching canvas, I told the truth. And then I answered Thomas. I showed the receipt for the class, the police report for the stolen refund. I told the story he'd erased. A woman who had given everything for her family, who dared ask for 3 hours a week to be herself and got crucified for it. I ended with this. If you're listening and you're over 30, 40, 60, let me say this clearly. It's never too late to take your life back. Olivia helped edit the video. We posted it. I expected a few hundred views. I was wrong. It exploded. Thousands watched, shared, and commented. This made me cry. My mom needed to hear this. We've all seen men like Thomas, controlling, selfish. You're not selfish, you're brave. One woman messaged me. "I thought I was trapped forever. Your story changed that I'm leaving tomorrow." Suddenly, Thomas's video didn't look so heroic. The comment section turned, "You expect your mother to raise your kid. Man-child whining because he has to parent. Grow up. She carried your whole family, and you filmed her fall." And then came the consequences. Thomas had uploaded that video using his company's official account. When public sympathy flipped, so did his boss. He was demoted. His bonus revoked his job on thin ice. At home, things were worse. Vanessa, now actually parenting, cracked. She left, took Ethan with her for shared custody. Richard, forced to cook his own meals and fold his own laundry, whined like a child. Their castle had collapsed because the woman holding it together had walked away and refused to come back. The Phoenix painting wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who stayed quiet, who bent to survive, who lost herself while meeting everyone else's needs. I painted her rising, half tangled in vines, but reaching, always reaching. When the email came, I sat frozen. My painting had been selected. Finalist Phoenix Art Competition. Joan screamed, Olivia cried. "I knew it," Olivia whispered. "I knew they'd see you." The exhibition would be held at the city's most prestigious gallery. My painting side by side with professionals, a brass placard, my name on the wall. It didn't feel real. I kept painting, kept posting. My channel grew. So did the messages from strangers. "Your story helped me file for divorce. I'm enrolling in college again. You gave me permission to want something for myself." Even local galleries started calling. Women's groups asked me to speak. And then 1 week before the exhibition, Richard showed up. Outside Joan's house, holding a bag of regrets. He looked smaller, softer, lost. "Eleanor," he said, "I didn't mean it. You can paint all you want. Just come home." I didn't yell, didn't cry, I just looked at him. "Richard, I am getting this divorce. If there's a shred of respect left, sign the papers. Let's end this with dignity." His eyes filled with tears. "I can't live without you." "Then don't sign," I said gently. "But I'll wait 2 years quietly and never come back." He walked away. The night of the exhibition was crisp electric. I wore black silk and a red scarf. Joan's suggestion. Something bold, she said. Something undeniable. The gallery buzzed with critics, artists, collectors. And there, center wall, lit like a cathedral window. My painting. And then I heard it. Mom, Thomas, in a wrinkled suit standing beside Richard. You're in the show? I stared at him. Why are you here? He shifted. We saw the announcement, thought we should come. Before I could answer, a woman in a blazer appeared. Mrs. Wells. The judges have made their decision. Please join us near the podium. Thomas blinked. Wait, you're not just in the show? You're winning. I didn't answer. I walked forward. The crowd gathered. The spotlight hit. And then, the Phoenix Award for Transformative Vision goes to Eleanor Wells for Emergence. Applause. I stepped onto the stage, trophy in hand, name on everyone's lips. I found Richard in the crowd. He looked like he'd just remembered something precious, too late. After the ceremony, he approached. Eleanor, he said softly. Congratulations. I guess you got what you always wanted. I met his eyes. You think I wanted to give up painting? I gave it up for you. For our son. For a life I built around everyone else's needs. He had no reply. I'll keep mailing the papers, I said. When you're ready, sign them. I turned back to Joan and Olivia, who waited with champagne and warm eyes. Behind me, I left more than a husband and a son. I left the old script, the silent woman, and stepped fully into the artist I had always been. The Phoenix Award changed everything. Overnight, I became more than that woman who left her husband. I was the artist who lit the internet on fire. Galleries reached out. Local papers ran profiles, Late Life Emergence, Eleanor Wells paints her truth. My inbox flooded with invitations and stories. Women in their 50s, 60s, 70s wrote, "You gave me language for a hunger I've silenced my whole life. Your painting unlocked something I didn't know I'd buried. You reminded me I'm not done yet." I rented a small studio sunlight pouring in from east-facing windows I painted every morning. Every afternoon, I read letters. Every night, I slept deeper than I had in years. But Richard didn't stop. His calls kept coming, now laced with nostalgia. Remember, when we first met, you were painting in that old gallery? I never wanted you to stop. But I had. For him. For Thomas. For the machine that ran on my silence. 6 months after Phoenix, I held my first solo exhibition. Packed. Not just collectors, but women dozens. Some with walkers, some with canes, all carrying stories they'd never told aloud. I was talking with a buyer when I saw him, Thomas. Standing alone, holding a small gift bag. "I brought this for you," he said, awkward. Inside a box of high-end paintbrushes. "Dad bought these for your birthday. 20 years ago, never gave them to you. Said you'd quit painting, but he'd meant to." The irony stung. Thomas looked down. Vanessa left. Said she was tired of being married to someone who expected her to be you. He laughed, but it was hollow. Turns out running a household isn't magic. It's exhausting, constant, invisible. His voice dropped. "How did you do it all?" "Mom, for so long?" I looked at him. I broke, you just didn't see it." He nodded slowly, eyes damp. Dad signed the papers. "The divorce is being processed." I blinked. Not joy, not grief, just peace. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. "He's not doing well," Thomas added. "Health-wise. The doctor says it's stress." Once that sentence would have pulled me back in, sent me packing casseroles and guilt. Not anymore. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I hope he finds a way to care for himself." Thomas waited for comfort. For the old version of me. She didn't show up. "Your paintings?" he said, glancing around. "They're really good. I should have believed in you." I touched his arm just once. It's never too late to start believing I did at 63. 2 weeks later, the divorce was final. 40 years closed with a judge's signature. No tears, no ceremony, just freedom. Joan threw a quiet dinner. Just us, Olivia, and a few women from class. We didn't toast the end of a marriage. We toasted what came after. To Eleanor, Jones said, raising her glass. Proof that it's never too late to paint a brand new life. 1 year. That's how long it had been since I walked out of Richard's kitchen with nothing but a suitcase and a spine I'd almost forgotten I had. Today, I stood inside my own studio, Eleanor Wells' studio, a brass plaque by the door. My paintings lined the walls, vivid, fearless, alive. I taught 1 workshop a week, just for women over 50. No grades, no judgment, only color courage and the gentle rediscovery of self. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be, I told them. And I meant every word. My relationship with Thomas had settled into something cautious. He was learning. He brought Ethan over every other weekend. No more dumping, no more expectations. I was finally a grandmother on my own terms, present, joyful, unburdened. Richard. He accepted the divorce eventually. Well, after one last grand gesture, the day we were legally separated, he had a heart attack. Minor stress-induced. He recovered, moved into a small apartment, sold the house we once called home. And in a twist no one saw coming, he joined an art therapy group at the community center. The last time I saw him was at Thomas's birthday dinner. He approached me almost sheepish. Eleanor, would you recommend some brushes? My therapist says painting helps with anxiety. I smiled. Here's a list, I said, beginner-friendly. No resentment, no regret, just release. We were 2 people now. Separate, surviving, healing. I painted every day. My style evolved brighter, looser, bolder. Critics called my work emotionally fearless. I didn't argue. On the anniversary of my escape, I finished 1 final piece. A woman standing in full sunlight, brushes in hand, eyes lifted to an open sky. No more vines, no more shadows. I titled it, Free. Joan stood beside me at the private showing. She studied the painting a long time, then whispered, You captured it the moment where fear gives way to possibility. I nodded. I had fewer years ahead than behind. But finally, they were mine.